Coming up, we're back in the inbox, finally.
You're listening to Double Tap, your daily accessible technology show. Now, here's your hosts, Stephen Scott and Shaun Priest.
Oh, hello. Welcome along to Double Tap. Lovely to have you here. Double tappers. Shaun Priest is here. Hello.
Are you okay? Have you had too much coffee already?
Oh, I think I did yesterday. I think I might have overdone it on the coffee. I had the jitters yesterday for the first time in I don't know how long.
That's never good, Stephen Scott. I thought you switched to this new hippie mushroom coffee.
I did, but then I also went to, let's just say, other less hippie coffee.
No.
More happy coffee.
Happy, jittery coffee.
That's right. Not good at 3 a.m, I will say. Here's the thing, right? So my Apple Watch yesterday, after we did the show yesterday, I checked my Apple Watch, as I do, as I am, inclined to do.
Yes.
And there was a notification on it that said, heart rate fell below, it was an alert, fell below 40 BPMs for 10 minutes or more at 9:55 a.m. when we recorded the show, in the middle of the show. And I thought, was I clinically dead during yesterday's program?
Well, listening to it, feedback at doubletaponair.com.
You decide. Yeah, hashtag dead, hashtag not dead on X.
You must be super fit. I mean,
Is
that's
that good?
Incredible. Yes, the lower the better. The resting heart
No, hang
rate.
on, that's not good. And low heart rate, as in like zero,
Well,
I imagine is bad.
I'm not a medical
here.
man.
No,
Well,
I'm asking the wrong person here, aren't I? I should be asking Google.
well, that could be good or it could be terrible. But hey, it proves that the Apple Watch is watching you, which is quite nice.
Yeah, it's terrifying me. That's what it's doing. I'm going to keep an eye on that. That doesn't feel right to me. I feel someone's going to be emailing in saying, Stephen, I think you might need to visit a doctor at some point.
Call an ambulance immediately.
Signed, the doctor.
Did you? Well, as ever, though, it's only it's not a medical device. The Apple Watch, it can get things wrong, so don't panic.
Okay. Fine. I feel better now. Thank you, Shaun.
Relax.
You're
welcome.
I'll tell you someone else who I'm really glad to have met today, in fact, this morning, and that was the technical support man over at Samsung, who I spoke to on the phone this morning. They've got a fantastic support line, by the way.
Oh, did they show you how to draw a house? Are you in?
It did. They showed me how to fix my phone. I had no idea what I was doing. I watched umpteen YouTube videos. And of course, the problem is when you watch a YouTube video and they may well describe what they're doing, they're not maybe describing everything that they're doing. So when you're resetting a Samsung phone, and the S25 in particular, there are different ways to do it for different phones. You have to hold down the volume down and then the power buttons until the screen goes off, and then you have to very quickly hold down the power button and the volume up button, and that puts it into reset mode, but it wasn't working. It just kept going back to the lock screen, opening back up, and I was left back to where I started again. I couldn't understand it. So this morning I thought, I'm going to have to bite the bullet here and call Samsung support because I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I cannot get this to reset.
Bite the bullet, like it's admitting defeat.
This is it. Clearly I've become one of them. I'm calling a support phone number.
Steve, there's nothing wrong with that.
So anyway, we got through to a lovely gentleman who talked me through it, and he said the key piece of information all the YouTubers failed to mention: you got to connect it to a computer first. You don't have to do anything more than connect it to a computer. You don't have to install any software or anything. You just have to have it connected to a computer, and then you can follow the steps that I just mentioned, and then you're opened up into the BIOS. Essentially, it's like a BIOS you go into, and for there you use the volume keys to select format or whatever it is, reset the phone, and follow the process.
This is bad, isn't it? Why is that allowed? I mean, I'm thinking of theft. Well, theft
YouTubers.
protection.
Oh, right.
No, stop it. If someone stole my
I thought
phone...
you were going to suggest that we criminalise YouTubers if they get information wrong. I'm all for it. Jail them all.
Hang on. How was the reset process? Did you reset and have to sign in again with your account?
Oh, well, basically the phone is completely reset back to scratch. However, there's a couple of caveats to this. First off, the BIOS that comes up is not accessible, okay? It's just like your typical BIOS. So this was where I had the guy, thankfully he could do this. He was able to talk me through the number of button presses. He couldn't see the phone, but he could talk me through the number of button presses from the top down. So I just kind of used my volume key up a couple of times so I knew I was at the top, and then just arrowed down.
Question?
Yes.
Sorry. what was the reaction when you said, actually, I'm blind, I can't see the screen?
He said, no problem at all. He was actually, do you know what? He was brilliant. I was kind of surprised. He was like, oh, no problem at all. He said, I can talk you through the number of button presses. And I thought,
oh, that's
wow.
Very good. Okay.
So it didn't faze him at all, which is, again, unusual, but cool. I find with nerds, they're quite good at this stuff. They don't care about the whole blindness thing. They're just like, oh, that's fine. That gives me a chance to be more nerdy.
No, I've had people say, well, you'll need to get sighted assistance.
Oh, really? Yeah, I've had that. That's true. But no, he was fine. He was absolutely fine.
Okay. Cool.
I told him I was a tech reviewer. I didn't mention the show because I didn't want him to be appalled at the fact that, here I am calling technical support. I'm the guy that's...
Oh, I know that show.
This is the thing. Exactly. Oh, I watch it all the time. Yeah. Oh, you're
that guy.
The
dead. That one. Yes.
that dead guy that's on it who presents. Yeah. I mean, I tell you, after that, Samsung will be wanting that phone back and considering me dead after all this carry on. But here's the thing. Once you actually get back into the phone, you do have to sign back in with your Google account. But here's the bit. It brings up, you've got to know about this. And thankfully he told me. He said, you've got to go through the steps and it will ask you to draw the pattern again. But this time round, there's if you keep going, he said there's an option further down the screen that lets you skip that and use your Google account to log back in. So I was able to log back in and get the phone back up and running again. Right. So it's back up and running. That's as far as I've managed to get because now we have to get the show done. So
finally test Gemini.
That's all I want to do. I just want to test Gemini. Carrie Morales has already been on Carry On Accessibility, demonstrating. I know. And
you've missed the boat.
Carrie's on the case, right? But Carrie's on the case. I like that. Get that name written down somewhere. Carrie's on the case. But no, honestly, it was... It'll be really cool to try it out. But the process, aside that inaccessible BIOS, which I guess it is, I'm calling it that, but that's certainly what it felt like. Other than that, the process is fairly swift. I mean, I will say, this is one thing where you got to be careful what you read, right? Because online it says, download the Smart Switch app, and you can do it all from there. So I did. I downloaded the Smart Switch application, and it asked me to connect the phone. Of course, the phone needed to be authenticated in order to use the Smart Switch app, so I couldn't get in that way either. And then I was checking out the documentation on that, and then it said, and of course, you can't use this to reset your phone. But it said I could on the last screen. So this is a problem with AI summaries, I think. The AI summaries are giving you false information, fake news, Shaun Priest.
I just wanted to clarify that if someone stole your phone, they couldn't simply reset it and sign in using their account, and now it's their phone. You still need to sign it. Even if you reset it, it's still linked to your account.
You are,
right?
because what happens is it comes up and says, in order to activate the account, you have to connect to Wi-Fi and you have to put your credentials in.
Gotcha. Okay, so that's fine. That's beautiful.
Pretty good, actually, yeah. So, yeah, I suppose
you should be, of course. Yes.
I know, because I could have been anyone calling up, right? I mean, this guy could have said, look, this guy's stolen this phone and he's trying to, get into it.
But anyway,
I wasn't.
Okay.
I'm not that smart. I'm not even smart to use it, so I'm hardly going to be smart enough to steal one. But
we'll get to it. Coming soon, possibly. We'll take a look at the new features. I want
to dive in. I want to have a play with it because I'm quite excited about it. But look, today we are. Yeah, no, I've absolutely not gone down that road again. I've gone Face ID and PIN unlock. That will do me.
I've forgotten my face.
Yes, right. I know. What happened to my face? My beautiful face. Right. Let's move on because today it's all about the inbox. Hooray!
Email. We get email.
About time, people are saying. Ding dong.
Here's your mail today.
Finally, we get to the email. Right, shall we kick off? Where are we going? Let's just dive right in. Hable Easy. Let's talk about that.
Hello. The Hable Easy has been available in the UK for some time. My organisation purchased the device last November. There has been some teething problems. Up until recently, the user of the device was unable to adjust values. For example, I could not access page 2 of my apps without using a touch gesture. Hable listened to the feedback and have now introduced additional features, including being able to access the rotor. With regards to the physical structure of the device, it is exactly the same as the Hable one. The firmware can be downloaded and installed from the Hable app under the Experimental Updates button. For those of you who are familiar with the Hable 1 layout, with the device flat on the desk in front of you in portrait with the USB port to the left and 8 being the furthest button from you, 8 equals home, 6 equals Siri/Google Assistant, 5 equals magic tap/play, 4 equals dictation, 3 equals backward swipe, 2 equals double tap, 1 equals forward swipe, 7 equals back button. The person can choose to use the device in two-handed mode, like the Hable One, although I found it easier to demonstrate the device to show it laid on the desk in one-handed mode first. The person can then decide whether to learn the two-handed mode. The button configuration is different in the two modes, which is a little confusing. The main difference between the Easy and Hable One is that the user is unable to type text into edit boxes, as there is no keyboard. It is all done by dictation. Shaun, I am with you here. A Hable Easy Mini would be great. A small device to fit in my pocket with an easy-to-reach magic tap button to play, pause media, and to answer and hang up calls. Hable, are you listening? Best wishes, Barry.
Thanks, Barry. Yeah, look, I'm with Shaun on this. I think the Hable Mini idea is brilliant. Kane and Hable, I believe, is the tagline you've
You're
got.
welcome. You're welcome. You know what, though? I was thinking about it could be... It's funny. It's a no-win situation, right? And what Barry said there is, but yeah, it's it's easy, but it hasn't got this functionality. So Hable have added it.
Yeah.
How long is it before we're back to the Hable One? Where, okay, now if you want to do this function, you need to hold down this combination of keys. It's a real tricky thing to try and, make something really simple. And, the clue's in the name, the Hable Easy. That's exactly what it's for. Easy access to the main features. But, I mean, I know there were some features you thought were missing, Stephen.
Yeah, well, there was two in particular which I really could do with. One was the I mentioned it in the interview, the WhatsApp gesture. Now, this is something they've actually implemented. Now, there is an update to the Hable Easy firmware. I tested it, and I'm going to go back with some more feedback on that because it's not quite behaving the way I was expecting. So I'm going to go back with some feedback on it. The other thing I was looking for was the ability to jump very quickly from the top of the screen to the bottom of the screen because, you go to something like Messages or even WhatsApp or, I don't know, Mastodon or any app, quite frankly, and you want to quickly jump to the bottom of the screen. You don't want to have to navigate through every single, tweet ever written to get to the menu at the bottom.
That's right. Yeah.
And ideally, you don't want to touch the device either, right? You want to do the whole thing while holding the Hable Easy. So they have implemented this, but again, it's a little bit different for me, and I need to just double check my settings before I go into the detail on it. But they are working on this, and they are listening. And what they're trying, and look, what they're trying to do here, and it is a challenge, right? Because Hable One is like the fully featured version. Okay, so you can do everything with it. You can type in it. You can navigate around. There's loads of different commands to do it. They are really trying to make a simplified, easy to use system, and you can see how far it goes because. You look at something like the Revo 2, and I've been talking about the Revo 2. I think it's a great little keyboard, and I love the features in it, but it's honestly, you need a degree to learn how to use it. And I just can't figure this stuff out. It's just there's too many commands, there's too many keys. It's like, hold this for that, and hold this, and then don't forget to add that, and hold 15 fingers. And it's just like, you know what, I can't do all this. There's too much to remember. I just want to very easily navigate around my device. I almost want the Revo 2 in easy mode, right? So the Hable Easy is the answer to that. But I think it does need a couple of those features, like the easy navigation from the top to the bottom of the screen. That WhatsApp gesture is core for me because I use it every day. And I think more people would use WhatsApp for audio. I love WhatsApp audio. I love the dictation as well. I know some people weren't happy about that. But you know what? I think you have to compromise somewhere. There's no way you're going to be able to turn this into... You can't keep it as an easy device for people to simply use to navigate if you start adding a full keyboard into it as well.
And the point is the Hable Easy exists because people wanted it to exist. There's people that didn't want all those extra functions, that wanted a simple way to interface with your phone, and this is it. So I will say this, though. You mentioned that, hey, my company bought it in October or November. Why are we still in experimental mode in that firmware? I'm a little bit confused by that. I cannot find the way to switch between one-handed mode or two-handed mode, what Barry mentioned there about the portrait or landscape mode. I can't figure that out. So, yeah, it's still a little bit confusing to me. But again, I'm using the Hable One and updating the firmware. If you bought this out of the box, I think you'd be in a far better situation.
Well, listen, we did say to Freak when he was on that he was more than welcome to come back and join us for a Q&A. And he was very keen to do that. So, if you have questions, if you've got the Hable and you've got questions, start sending them in now. Maybe we'll put a cap on it, say maybe by next Friday, a week on Friday, let's say. Send in your questions for Hable and we'll get Freak back on and answer those questions. Get your questions answered, get mine answered as well. but also your questions, dear listener, as well, right? Get in touch. Send us an email, feedback@doubletaponair.com. You can also send us that WhatsApp message as well. We'll give you the contact details shortly. But do send in your questions for the WhatsApp, for the Hable team, not for WhatsApp. They're not coming on. I'd like them to come on, but no. For Hable, if you've got questions, send them in, and we will get them to Freak, and we'll do an Ask Us Anything special. Okay. Okay. Thank you, Barry, for that. Let's hear from Bill.
Hi, gents. Long-time listener going back to the old days of prior podcasts.
Hey.
I'm a big fan and love the banter, content, and guests. I recently started migrating my 70-plus podcasts from Overcast to the Apple Podcast app, as Overcast has been buggy and had some accessibility glitches. All my podcasts are working great, except yours, regrettably. It will not refresh with new episodes. It seems to refresh fine on my Mac using the Podcasts app, but not on my iPhone. I tried a lot of things and covered most of the solutions in an article titled How to Fix Apple Podcast Not Updating on macobserver.com, but to no avail. Any suggestions?
Well, thank you, Bill, for the email. It is a challenge because a lot of people have been having this issue. I've been getting a lot of people saying, hey, I use Apple Podcasts, it's not updating. The only advice we can offer is to try restarting the app, so close the app down entirely, then go back in, or delete the Double Tap subscription and then come back into it again and sign back in, subscribe again to it. That seems to work for most people. I don't know why. Nothing's changed on our end. So, Apple are always changing things at their end. So I don't know if something's happened and it's caused an issue. But it seems to be updating fine on mine. I haven't had any major issues with me.
I'm stopping myself from saying that. It's fine for me. So therefore,
I know, and
it's not a problem.
That's not an answer, really, is it?
No.
But it hasn't been. In saying that, I tend to listen on. Well, I don't listen to our show very often because we're on it. I don't need to listen to it every day. But no. I haven't had a major issue with it. But I know a lot of you have, and I've had a lot of emails, and we've gone back to everyone individually. For that reason, purely because obviously if you can't hear us, if the app of choice isn't working, you might be missing the show. So we've gone back to people individually on it. But if it is an issue for you, try deleting the subscription if you're hearing this, obviously, and subscribing again.
Do we know, is this an Apple Podcast issue? Is it only happening to people using Apple Podcasts?
It seems to be, yeah. Yeah, other apps seem to be fine. Overcast, Downcast, Castro, they all seem to be behaving fine.
What have we said about Apple recently? Are we in trouble? We're very, very sorry, Tim.
I will say that, someone did say to me from Apple recently, did say to me, give Apple Intelligence a break, will you? And I'm like, well, actually, excuse me. No, I won't give Apple Intelligence a break. Once you fix it, then I will speak happily about it. But until then, me and my old friend Samsung over here, we're going to have some fun times with old Gemini. We're going to hit the town with Gemini and see what we can
haven't even opened it up yet. So
I know, I'm going to be here tomorrow and I say, this is the worst thing I've ever seen. This is absolute rubbish. No, I'm not going to say that. I don't know. Okay. I don't know what. I mean, we'll see what happens.
Yeah,
what should I ask it? What should I ask it?
All right, calm down. We'll get to it.
No, what should I ask it? I'm hopeless with this. You know what happens? I'll start doing this and I'll be like, okay, is there a table in front of me? Yes. And that'll be me. Oh, well, that's fine. It works.
Well, you know your go-to, don't you? Your test, like the drop test for build quality on your toes. How many toes does it break? That ridiculous test you've got. Your test for live video AI seems to be putting a coffee cup down on your desk. And then moving it and say, tell me when it moves, or where is it now, or where is it in relationship to where my hand is, and things like that.
Is it on the surface of the moon?
Which actually, I mean, it's perfectly valid. It tells you how often if it's watching, how often it updates itself, and it tells you, if it understands the context of relationship between hands and positions. So it's a valid test. I'll give you that. So just try that one.
I mean, think about technology like the Meta Quest, right? Even the AirPods, the Apple Vision Pro.
Vision, yes.
The technology that's in there, the ability for it to see your hands and able to navigate. I mean, Meta Quest is actually the best at this, isn't it, when it comes to VR? Or at least it's one of the ones that are the best at this. I know. I'll probably get in trouble with the gamers. I don't know. Look,
totally deleted off Apple Podcasts.
I know, I'm gone. Yeah, Vision Pro. But seriously, right? When it comes to this technology, you think about how a device like the Meta Quest can, see your hands and then build them into the real or their virtual world, right? And you think that's really cool. So it can see the hands, it can see where things are, it can act upon that. So all we need it to do is basically speak that back, right? We just need that additional kind of like, right, okay, so, the cup is on the table, it's been moved, right? Because it can see the cup, it can see it's been moved. That's all we're looking for. It doesn't seem like a huge stretch considering the technology we've got.
Yeah, just make it happen. Yeah, all right.
That's hardly.
You make it work then, Stephen Scott.
It's hardly the most shocking thing that I'm asking. I'm not asking it again. I'm not asking them to dredge up Titanic with their teeth.
The point is, if you wanted to create your own app that would tell you where your coffee cup is on your desk in relationship to your hand, move left a bit, there it is. You could do that on device quite easily, as long as you didn't want it to recognize anything else other than your hand and that coffee cup.
LiDAR can do it.
When we're talking about, yes, but again, it's looking for specific things. If we do it for AI, where you're saying, I have no idea what I'm looking at, describe it to me, that's a huge difference.
Well, I'm not going to say, is there something in front of me? Where is it? I want to touch it. That's you're going to be specific, right? You got to be.
Yes, but you're asking the AI to
identify what a cup is.
Identify. We're talking about different sizes of data sets here.
I'm not interested in this. This is boring.
Okay,
I just want it to work.
Make it happen. Yeah, okay, fine. Sorry, we can't help you with the podcast. Just
or anything
follow
else
those
for that
steps.
matter.
Yes,
right, let's move on.
Wow, next.
Hi, Stephen. Hi, Shaun. This is Chris coming from New York. Hope all is well. I just had a question. Wanted to know how the experience of Glide has improved since you guys may have gotten your hands on it and CSON 2025. I just wanted to make sure I got the right convention. The product will be releasing apparently in a few months, so I wanted to know if there have been any improvements or noticeable changes. Maybe the feel of the prototype has gotten better. Maybe some key highlights that you would like to mention. Otherwise, thank you guys for doing what you guys do. You guys have a hilarious show. Awesome stuff. Keep doing what you guys do. Have a great one. Thank you so much for listening to my message. Bye. Thank you.
It's not meant to be funny, Chris, is it? Is this meant to be funny?
Hilarious doesn't necessarily mean a compliment, Stephen. It could be. Yes, that was the nicest voicemail I've had. Thank you very much. Okay, the Glide. The difference between when I tried it at Site Village, which was when, Stephen Scott? Was that
it was
November?
Last year, November time? Yeah, that sounds about right.
Site Village in London and CSUN in California. Well, I think the main thing was the hardware. So the one I tried at Site Village was very much the prototype, Captain Crunchy or whatever they called it, because it made funny noises.
That's absolutely not what they called it.
I'm pretty sure they did, absolutely, or not.
Isn't it called Marie now?
Oh, yes, that's right, yeah.
Remember I made a big thing about this on the show.
Yes, you did. A big, massive thing.
Yeah.
The hardware feels a lot more final. It was very small. It was just... it felt like, if I got that out of the box after buying it, I think, yeah, that seems right. So I think the hardware is virtually done. It seemed very nice. From a actual use case point of view, it seemed smoother in, actually turning and steering was a lot smoother. And the huge thing about this one, which is different from the other one, is that this was fully autonomous. So there was no one with a remote control behind me sort of moving it around, showing me what it would do. This was exactly doing it totally on its own. So I took it out on the exhibition floor, and it was, you know what it's like without a cane. This is going to be terrible. But I felt perfectly at home with it, and it, it steered me around, guided me around any people in my way. It shorelined to the wall at one point, and it just felt really nice. So, yeah, I think there was a huge difference in that. This is more of the final product. Hardware-wise, it was very nice. Software-wise, at least for this one feature or this one function of, I think they called it freestyle. So freestyle navigation. You're not telling it, I need to go here or look out for this door or whatever. Just, hey, I'm walking, make sure I don't walk into anything. And it worked really, really well.
Would you be comfortable taking this out instead of the cane? Like, say you were going out with the dog.
Do you know, it's tricky. I honestly don't know, because using it on a exhibition floor, a conference floor, is totally different than taking it out down your street, as we all know that. So I'm going to have to, the first time, it needs to prove itself to me out in the real world. I won't lie, and I'm maybe a little bit nervous about that. But going off, I mean, like I say, I left my cane with one of the Glidance team and took this thing out, and I wasn't thinking, oh, I wish I had my cane with me as well. Not once. So
That's interesting.
Yeah. Every time we talk to Amos or any of the Glidance team, and especially when you get hands-on with it, it does sort of reinforce, this could actually work. I can see this being the third option.
Yeah, I like the sound of it. I really do. I mean, I didn't try it at CSUN. I don't quite know why I didn't. I just didn't.
I know. I kept telling you.
I know. You kept saying, go try it. And I'm like, I tried it in South Village. And I did. And I enjoyed it at South Village. I know what you mean about Captain Crunchy, but I was told about that. And I understand what was going on there.
Well, it was a prototype being demoed to hundreds of people.
I suppose, I'm kind of just at the point where I just want to get it in my hands and try it like fully. I feel I've talked so much about it. And I know, and I'm talking personally here. I know we're of course going to talk about it on the show. Loads of people are still interested in it. And, we absolutely were going to be connecting in again with the Glidance guys in the lead up to the launch, because we want to know what's going on. We want to know how things are going. Really dig in more to the features that will be available at launch as well. There's a subscription element to it. What will that involve? All that stuff. But here's a funny story. So yesterday I'm coming home. I'd gone over to see my mum, and I was walking back into my street, and there was all these kids playing. Now that terrifies me, because kids just run. They just vroomp, and suddenly they're in front of you. It's like animals, jumping all over you and irritating.
Kids are like animals.
The kids are like animals.
Stephen Scott.
Feral animals. And anyway, this kid. I don't know how old this kid was. I know nothing about children other than the fact that they exist and they're generally irritating. But this child, hello neighbours, came running up beside me, shouting, "Mushroom, mushroom, mushroom!" And it really freaked me out, because I thought, this kid thinks, there's a mushroom. And I wanted to stop and go, excuse me, it's actually a jumbo rollerball, if you don't mind. I don't have the mushroom tip on this. But anyway, the kid thought it was a mushroom, so it starts chasing me. And so I stopped chasing. I stopped dead in the street. Thankfully, the child's mother was nearby to say, come over here, child, and leave that poor blind man alone, because it was exactly like the South in the 1920s.
Yes.
Don't be a child. But basically the child. I have no idea what accent that was. I apologise on behalf of her. I think I'll be cancelled after that, I'm sure. Anyway,
Did the mother say it in an aggressive, angry
Scottish way? Yes, absolutely.
Yes, well, quite rightly too.
Yeah.
I mean, come on now.
The kid was young, right? I mean, I don't know. As I say, I don't know, 2, 3, 5 months old. I don't know how old kids are when they're running about shouting
I don't
words.
think that's how it works. Okay.
But anyway, there was a small young child yelling mushroom at me the whole way along the street. And,
that's that mushroom coffee. It's probably the smell.
The smell of the coffee, that's it. A very educated child then. In that
Do you know
case.
what? I find young children are lovely when it comes to interact. They don't hold back, right? They just ask questions. What's that for? What's that?
Well, I think this kid was
fine.
younger than that. I think that's the thing, right? I think this was more of a toddler, if I'm honest, because the other kids were running about and they were just chatting, hello and all that, and that was fine.
Yeah.
They said hello, and that was more than enough interaction for me. But when it came to this kid chasing after me, my concern was the kid's going to run in front of me, and I'm not going to see the child.
Yes, that's right.
So that's why I stopped, because I thought, what's going to happen here? And thankfully, the mum was there to deal with that situation.
With the situation. It's
mushroom.
funny,
I was like, oh God!
I went to
It's a jumbo rollerball.
I went to the shop the other day, and as I got to the top of the street, there was a group of kids. I say kids, it'll be teenagers. And they started shouting, "There's a blind man! There's a blind man! There's a blind man!" And it's like, I don't know how I feel about this. Do I feel like bullied? I'm a 52-year-old man. Do I feel bullied by teenagers shouting, "There's a blind man" at me? But you do feel slightly anxious about it.
Of course,
because it's like, okay, where is this going to lead to, you know? But I just said, yeah, that's right. How you doing? And everything was fine, right? But
and then they stole your wallet.
And then but what I'm saying is, it's another one of those things, right, where you start to feel a little bit, I don't know, less of a man, emancipated. Is that the word? I don't know. It's where you feel
That's one of those shavers that I don't buy.
I shouldn't feel like this. I'm a grown adult, and yet these kids are kind of intimidating me. But, you know,
but then I think everyone feels
it was
like
in
that,
my
don't they?
mind.
I think anyone that's out of a certain age, and I think even over 50, probably do feel a little bit like that because, you know, you just don't know what's going on. You don't know what situation may erupt.
How dare you?
I think that's,
do you know what?
That's not uncommon.
Something happened to me this morning. I know, no talking for 20 minutes between emails.
You said that, not me. I'll talk all day,
sorry.
but you keep saying, no, we can't talk for 10 minutes in between every email.
This fits in. This morning, right, I was out to the dog out, walking back, and I was shorelining on the road. I live on a very, very quiet road.
What do you mean on the road?
Instead of walking on the pavement, right, I walk on the road in the gutter.
Sidewalk. Right.
Yes, and I'm feeling the curb, right? It's very quiet.
Hang on.
It's fine.
Hang on. Question. Sorry,
Okay.
I have to do this.
Yes, Stephen Scott, double tap. Question?
Thank you. So pleased to ask it. First time caller, long time listener. So why are you not on the pavement? What's the deal with the pavement?
Okay, because there's a couple of houses there where the hedges and plants are a little bit out of control, and it sort of pushes you out to the side anyway. And a couple of times I've crookled. Yes, I've crookled off the curbside.
Made up word.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Look, the road's very quiet. I'm hearing things. Anyway, right. So I'm walking back and someone...
So you'd rather walk on the road and be hit by a car than walk into a hedge?
I could hear a car coming a mile away. It is so quiet. Anyway, look, I'm not saying... I'm not a mobility expert, but whatever.
Clearly.
The point is, someone crossed the road, came over to me and said, the pavement is over here on the left. You are on the road right now. Just letting you know, okay? And part of me went, oh, isn't that nice? I told you, the majority of people are great. But the other half of me wanted to scream in their stupid face, what do you think I'm thinking about right now? Every step I take, I'm thinking about 1,000 different things. I'm thinking about the ground under my feet. I know exactly where I am. What on earth do you think blind people are doing? Just bumbling about here, not knowing exactly where they are.
Yes.
It drove me...
That's what he's thinking.
Well, exactly. I mean, do you know where you are right now? Look,
but
there's
hang
a
on,
different...
but hang on, though. To be
here
fair,
he comes.
To be fair, right?
Yes.
You're walking along a road when there is a pavement. I can kind of understand. I would be saying to you, I am saying to you, why are you not walking on the pavement, you idiot?
If he came over and said, why aren't you walking on the pavement? I would have said, this is the reason why. You see these bushes here that the inconsiderate homeowner has not trimmed back, forcing me to sort of walk onto the edge here. I'm walking in the road.
Well,
it's
sir,
a very
I
quiet
put it to
road.
you, I am that homeowner. I know you've got a fight in your hands.
Yeah, that's right. But it made, when I walked off, because I did have that flash of, I'm really indignant with rage here. Like, they just think you're not thinking at all.
But it's interesting how you feel both ways at the same time, right? You kind of almost understand why he's saying it, but you also get frustrated by it. Because you do think, these people just think we're idiots. And you're absolutely right, because there is both sides to us, because we see it from that point of view of, look, I've managed my whole life to get, I'm standing here as in your case, a 75, I think it was, year old man. And, there you are. You've managed to get to that age, slightly unscathed. I think a doctor might disagree, but you've managed to get there. How have you managed this entire life without this individual walking up and telling you, by the way, you're walking on the road? That's the thing that always gets me. It's like, I've managed this whole way through my life. But then, of course, the other side of the coin is we do need help sometimes. We do sometimes get things wrong. A friend of mine, and actually, this is where the guide dog thing always makes me interested. Do you remember when they brought in all the shared spaces in the UK?
Oh,
and for people who don't know what that is, essentially they kind of got rid of the curb and they just made the pavement, the sidewalk, and the road as one. Because it was a great idea, really, to sort of merge the traffic with people. Because that's
shared
never gone wrong.
spaces with cars. What could possibly go wrong?
There is nothing quite like, walking along a road and, a bus hurtling towards you on your side of the road.
Well, it's not your side. It's shared space, Stephen Scott.
Absolute nonsense. But look, it happens all the time. It really does. Let's get some more feedback.
Sorry.
Because I want to get Daisy on here. In fact, tell you what we'll do. We'll take a short break for a sec. We'll just remind people how you can get in touch with Double Tap if you would like to.
Get in touch with Double Tap. Email feedback@doubletaponair.com. Leave us a voicemail at 1-877-803-4567. And now you can send an audio or video message to us on WhatsApp. That number is 1-613-481-0144.
Yeah, lots of you enjoy getting in touch on the WhatsApp there, 1-613-481-0144. That is the number that you can use to get us on WhatsApp. Send us a voice message on there. You can also just leave us a text message if you want as well. Lots of you are sending a mixture, but we get a lot of audio messages. It's nice to hear your voices.
Video
you can
message
video
as well?
Yeah, you
That's
can.
the thing. Yeah.
You could do that as
Thank
well. Listen, Daisy's been in touch. Let's hear from Daisy.
Hey there, all. Very interesting and excellent discussions you all had regarding Braille, and its week celebrating 200 years of Braille being around. I think a good place to start off with in this email is with my journey in Braille. I began learning Braille when I was in 3rd grade. It took me a year or so to master both non-contracted and contracted Braille. Good thing I'm a fast learner. I remember that very first moment I sat down without any warning or so, and my TVI pulled out this sheet that I wanted to look at that had Braille on it, even just one time, but unfortunately she held a paper over my hands, and I began my journey from there. Since then, I've always, except now, have been somewhat resistant, or more like mentally not enjoying, or even against Braille. I remember spending quite a bit of time in the beginning having my fingers get used to the Braille, and therefore start recognising the dots. Then, in my 4th year, my TVI started brailing some math sheets, but it wasn't until 5th grade that I really started to use Braille for multiple reasons. See, part of learning Braille was to be consistent with it, both learning and maintaining Braille. I spent 2 years, after the 3rd grade and after 4th grade in summer school, which basically included me just reading Braille. I didn't like having to do that, but oh well, what other option did I have? Then, in 5th grade, I still used a variation of Braille and large print, although more attention was towards Braille. What was rough during my 5th grade year and 6th grade year was 2 times when my eyesight and things I was doing showed that Braille may be what I needed, but still I wanted to rely on my eyesight. For instance, it got to a point where my English language arts teacher couldn't read my handwriting, so I basically had to start typing my papers on my Perkins Brailler. Secondly, the other memory that comes to mind was when I was plotting a point on a graph. Unfortunately, I marked it incorrectly, and that's when my TVI was basically like, you got to use Braille, and this is why. By then, being blind really started affecting me negatively, and is why I think also that it is important to discuss the mental health side of things. Since although I had the tools, I never accepted being visually impaired or had the time to process the emotions. I wanted to rely on my eyesight and do things by the eyes, but I couldn't, and that was probably the hardest thing I had to realise and just accept. Now I want to shift gears to my technology experience throughout this. I and my TVI were always keeping an eye at Braille displays. I remember being introduced to an Orbit display. I do not even remember which one it was, but after that, in the following year, I got to test the Braille trailer by APH. It was a fine small display, but it didn't meet my needs as for ease of use and other things quite yet. Then, many years later, in my 8th grade year, I started learning the Mantis Q40. At first, I thought it wasn't something for me. Until the year after that, I asked for the device again, and from there, I actually started using it. I absolutely love that saving notes is so easy on it, and I love the full-on keyboard it has on there. If there was only one thing I gained from learning all of this blind stuff, I would say that was keyboarding, honestly. I don't know why, but it did help me greatly. Through the school's help as to find an outside source to fund the Mantis that I currently own today, which still provides such great help for me. Although I do wish I used Braille a bit more. All of the energy I could have saved and reserved. Since I'm always trying to hear and pay attention to instruction while also just being on my iPad reading and accessing materials as a deafblind person, typically by the end of the day I would be battling staying up during a bus ride home that I couldn't really control since my body automatically was shutting down. However, on the brighter side of things, I also own the NLS e-reader and the Monarch, funnily enough, thanks partly to the huge government grant for each student to be able to access the Monarch. A device I didn't ask for, but vocational rehab ended up buying for me anyway since I was a Braille reader, or at least knew Braille. But by that point I was accepting my vision loss and up to today are trying to use Braille for everyday use, and for some light reading, since it does help me fall asleep, weirdly enough. Thank you all who have allowed me to share this story with you, and keep up the double awesome work that Double Tap does to present such serious and in-depth discussions with some shenanigans thrown into the mix as well. Best regards to everybody.
Daisy, thank you so much for sending that, because you know what, that really resonated with me. I've got to say, that story is very similar to mine, in the way that, you know, you resist it and you resist it, and you know, I wasn't encouraged to use Braille. So, you know, in some ways, you could see that what I've been kind of campaigning for a long time is for more people to learn Braille, to have access to it. Almost like, even if they don't feel they need it themselves, it's good to kind of just have the skill. And I think that's probably where you're now at. You're starting to realize the value of having that skill early on, or at least being taught that skill early on. But it is a challenge. And, you know, the mental health aspect, it is gymnastics, isn't it? I mean, you know, this is one part of the mental health story when it comes to blindness that people, you know, don't fully understand, especially those who are outside of the bubble, who just don't understand or even think about it.
Yeah.
You know, we all, so speaking from a low vision point of view, and I think you can speak to this as well, Shaun, you know, in those days of the low vision, where the vision was, you know, almost okay enough to read, but not for long periods. And certainly, you know, even anyone who's got nystagmus is in that position, you know, and even just that condition alone, you know, you can maybe read for a very small period of time, but you can't read much. And I often thought when I was at school, I just wasn't that good at education, right? Because I couldn't read very much. So, you know, I was constantly presented with larger print. And when I say larger print, I mean just a book that had been taken and enlarged from A4 to A3.
Yeah.
That was it. You know, so it wasn't even large print as such. It was just larger print. And so I was kind of not really reading all these books that were given to me. I couldn't. There's just no way I could. But I didn't realize that then. I thought it was me. I thought I was lazy. I thought I was incapable of understanding or learning this way. And, you know, therefore the other options like audio, Braille weren't even offered to me as an option. Didn't have that option. Others did. Others in the school did. They would say, well, you know, you maybe would be better with audio. They were kind of, the teachers were deciding on the behalf of the children and based on their individual needs rather than individual needs that we had thought about. But of course, the problem is, as a kid, I don't think you know, do you? I mean, I certainly had no idea what I needed.
Well, no, and how would you? I mean, the line that stuck out for me there from Daisy was learning all this blind stuff, right?
Yeah.
That's exactly how you feel. This isn't me. What's happening? Why have I got to learn this? But the truth of the matter is, it helps you, and you know, it's really difficult. There's so many different facets to the whole process, isn't there? There's other people attitude, like you mentioned, the teachers deciding what's best for you, and also your own acceptance of it and recognizing it. And as a kid, you go off other people. Sometimes you don't have any choice in yourself anyway.
My advice to anyone who's low vision at the moment, who's either dabbling in Braille or feels that, you know, with the conversations we've been having on the show, maybe I should find my way into using this, or maybe I should try it. Give yourself a break. Just give yourself a break. Don't push yourself to do something if you're not ready to do it. Don't worry about spending time on learning Braille. The problem is, again, we always hear from, and I'm not going to use the phrase super blind because that's not what I mean. I don't mean that. But you do hear from people, because there are the super blind, right? That's a different category. But there are lots of people who will start to learn Braille, and they'll often talk about, oh, you know, I did 20 minutes of Braille today, and I do it every day. It's a bit like listening to people who write journals and get up at 5 a.m. and drink, you know, wheat milk or whatever it is they do. And you think to yourself, okay, this is all great and wonderful, but that's not the majority of people. And actually, if you start learning, and if you do a little bit of reading, and like with me, for example, I would put the books down. I put the training books down for maybe months. And then, you know, have a day where I think, you know what, I'm going to pick those books up again. I wasn't feeling particularly guilty about it. I just thought, you know what, if it takes me 2 years, 3 years to learn this, so be it. And I think we've got to cut ourselves some slack.
I think, yeah, no, absolutely, you're right. And not just about Braille. So many different things.
Anything,
by the way.
Yeah,
but,
like learning Reaper, like you and I.
Yes,
absolutely hopeless at learning that.
But there are some things. You know, I think age does matter if you are a child. I think, and Daisy said herself, the maintenance is really important. The consistency is important at some stage. You know, the amount of times I've learned, you know, grade 1, and this is great. I can text so easily, and you know, I don't have to listen to anything, and then never use it again. And then, you know, 6 months later, I'll pick it up. if you are forcing yourself to do it every day, that is a benefit. But of course, you should never feel guilty about that.
But this is why I push back against the whole Braille is literacy, because it kind of suggests if you don't have Braille and you're blind, you're incapable, you're less than. And I don't like that. I really don't like that, because I don't think it's true, for a start. I think there's lots of us who have learned to navigate our lives, do jobs, work in whatever field we've found ourselves in, and managed to do it, perhaps using a screen reader, perhaps at one point using large print, perhaps using magnification at some point. We've managed our way through it. So to turn around and say, well, now you're totally blind and you're in a position where you have no vision, you now need Braille, otherwise, you're deemed incapable. It's just nonsense to me. It's just rubbish. I don't agree with it at all. I do agree that Braille is important, and I will always fight for Braille because I believe in it. And I think we proved that yesterday with our conversation with Connor. We must fight against the sort of destruction of Braille, which is happening from places we wouldn't expect, right? I mean, companies, organizations are moving away from Braille, and that's not great. Despite the fact that we have all this great technology coming through, again, it comes back to cost and access. And I know the people who always come back to me with this and say, well, yeah, but there's this scheme and there's that scheme. Yeah, but not for everybody. Not for everybody. For certain people, certain places, perhaps. I mean, that's brilliant, for example, Daisy, that you've got access to the NLS e-reader, which I think is a fantastic scheme. That should be worldwide. Yeah. That should be a global thing. That alone should be just one thing. If we can agree on absolutely nothing in this world, we should agree on at least that blind people should have access to that. But we don't have that. So we don't have that equal access yet. The fact that you've got access to the Monarch through that amazing government grant is brilliant. And I'm so pleased for you. That's fantastic, Daisy. And it's great for anyone who can access it. But again, not everybody has access to that. And that's important to recognize.
Is it? I mean, okay, look, the reality is there's a cost to all of these devices, and in assistive tech, we can go over the old arguments about why they cost what they cost, but whatever. There's a cost. If someone, as Daisy said, I didn't really want the Monarch, that's an expensive device. I mean, is this stuff just being, okay, you're blind, you need this?
There's a little bit of blind boxing going on, yeah. There's a little bit of the blind box thing.
I have got no... Everyone should be means tested. If someone can afford to buy this themselves, shouldn't they?
Well,
there's a whole new argument here.
Well, I think there's a debate around the technology that is often just given out to people, and you're right. There's a huge amount of money in that sense, and if you're not going to use it, then I think it's up to the individual to say, "Look, I'm not using this. This is not for me." But then again, look at Daisy's story.
Yes.
Daisy. And I kind of
like with the Mantis,
again,
for example,
akin it to me, yeah.
Like it. Yeah.
It's like at first, and then later you pick it up and suddenly you're all in on it.
It's true, yeah. No, I'm not blaming Daisy for
No.
anything.
I don't mean that, but I just mean
sometimes you see equipment given to people almost, well, you're blind, you need this, and it may be the case actually they don't need it, or maybe they're in a position to obtain it themselves. In which case, someone who really can't afford to buy a device.
We've had this discussion, haven't we, before about other, services and apps, and we were talking yesterday about Braille transcription, and the fact that if someone can't pay, then that should be subsidized. But then people who can afford it should pay for it. So I think that's fair.
There's so many different aspects to that. But thank you, Daisy. I think that email is going to resonate with a lot of people.
Yeah, and I really appreciate you sending it in, because this is exactly the kind of conversation. I think we're the only place left in the world you can have this conversation. Sadly, that's the truth. Because there's just not many places you can have this honest conversation publicly like this, and I think it's important. It is really vital, because we're, we've got to be honest about this. There's so many people who, and it amazes me, the people who get in touch who don't want their messages read out on air.
Yeah,
who will say,
true.
Please keep this conversation going. I need to hear this. So if you're writing an email like that, then trust me, you're getting to people who need to hear it. And that's possibly the most important thing we can do is talk about this. Right, let's move on. Let's go to Darren, who's got something to tell us.
Hi, this is Darren from Bexley in Kent. I'm talking on Sunday the 23rd of February. The reason I'm calling is basically on yesterday, I was looking on YouTube, just browsing around, And I had this nudge to look at the RealSAM YouTube channel, RealSAM in Your Pocket. It would appear that, and it's all on YouTube, so it's all there, there's going to be a Pocket Plus. I don't know when it's coming out, but the videos are quite recent, the 20th of February, so it's going to be fairly soon. It might be worth getting them on there to talk about it because it's got all the AI features and there's demonstrations of people using it to read text, identifying images, all the things that you can do with basically seeing AI by the look of it. And they were even getting it to find use-by dates on food packages, basically with their voice. So you didn't seem to have to use the touch screen at all, other than to touch the icon to inactivate the voice command prompt. So it's not cheap. I think they said prices start from about £53 or £1,400 and odd pound outright. So it's about the price of a standalone reading machine. But if it's got all the other functionality of RealSAM, like the talking books and the newspapers and everything else, it could be an interesting proposition in that it's a very easy to use piece of kit and you haven't got to mess about with touch screens and menus so much like you do with other things. So it might be worth getting them on. And there are videos on YouTube. If you've got the facility, take a look. This is Darren saying bye for now, and thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Darren. I appreciate that. You know, it's funny, I haven't heard from RealSAM in a while. You're absolutely right, Darren. We should get them back on.
They've been going for a long time. Can you give a quick description of what the device is, Stephen?
Well, it's changed a little bit over the years because, it always started off, it was like your traditional kind of Android smartphone, which had this technology built into it that you could navigate, you could get books. It was kind of swipe and gesture based. They had kind of tried to skin Android in such a way that you didn't really have a very easy interface to work with, and you could even talk to. You could just talk to it. Now, it has evolved over the years. I don't want to go into more detail in that because it's probably evolved beyond what I remember it being.
Yes.
But no, we will definitely. I actually, funnily enough, I do have a meeting in my calendar with someone from RealSAM very soon. So I will absolutely bring this up, Darren, and I really appreciate that message because I think, again, it's just about the choice, right? The technology out there. And with AI in particular, being able to access information, and especially by voice, that might appeal to a lot of people. Making calls, sending messages. If you can do all that via voice, and you can use AI to create the message or send a message or whatever it is, and that's cool. I think more choice is good.
We'll look into it. Thank you, Darren.
Let's go to Rona, I think it is, who's been in touch.
Dear Double Tappers, thank you to Stephen and Shaun for the great work that they do each and every day to bring important accessibility updates to the blind community. I enjoy listening to your show each day. I love the feedback that you got from other listeners. Thank you again, and I hope to hear from you soon. Roanna Bacchus.
Oh, Roanna. I beg your pardon.
Roanna.
I cannot hear with this. I need to change this voice on this voiceover. Honestly, it is. I can barely hear it in my ear. I kind of try and catch it as it goes by. But of course, you're hearing other things at the same time, like Shaun bleating on about something.
All right, calm down. Thank you so much. That was a lovely email. Thank you. We appreciate it.
Thank you for that. Peter up next.
Hi guys. I use the good old Windows Live Mail, which is part of the Windows Live Essentials. It's very old. It works very fine. I even read my subscribed RSS feeds in that software. Forget about ribbons as well if you install the 14.0 something version. It was released in 2009. It can be installed and run on Windows 10. Didn't try on Windows 11 though. If you would give it a try and cannot find a link to download, just let me know and I'll put it on OneDrive for you. Peter from Hungary and Budapest.
Oh, thank you, Peter. And now I know how to download from OneDrive after my debacle the last time that Greg sent me something. I could not figure out how to download it on the Mac. Still can't.
Look, I still find it absolutely amazing that the email clients are still slightly... They're not the best, are they? Anyway, a nice simple email client. It's good to have that.
What absolute rubbish are you talking
option. Now? Oh, come on. Outlook is not...
I just don't know how to use Outlook. We've had experts on here. I've brought you the finest people in all the land.
It's still a little bit clunky, isn't it? Let's be honest. It is. Okay, Control R, Control Y, all that stuff. Great. Very, very nice. But I just want a list of emails, easy to use. I don't want it categorized and prioritized and, oh, you got to look at this one. Oh, and this is a receipt. I'll sort that out eventually. Leave it alone.
But you can turn all that off. I need to sort your machine out. Can I just give a shout out, by the way, for Remote Incident Manager from Numa Solutions? I didn't know this company did all this great software. I know about Remote Incident Manager, but the other ones like Scribe and all that I got into as well. But honestly, so I was over at my mum's the other day. I had to do something, and I had to remote into my own machine back home to do something. And I thought, well, since I've got a Mac Studio sitting at home, I can do it much quicker if I'm on that machine than on the one I'm sitting on. And so it's kind of made me think about, the future, right? Do I need to have a MacBook Pro in the future? Don't think I do, because I can easily remote into my machine at home, which has got the fast internet and all the capabilities. So, and I will say, using it with VoiceOver, remotely, an absolute dream. So,
really?
Yeah.
No lag?
A tiny bit of lag. I will say that if you use a PC, less lag. Weird.
Well, that's always the case.
Thing. Must be a
well
Mac
done.
Thing. Yep. Listen, we're out of time. Thank you for your emails. We'll get into more tomorrow, I promise. Some wonderful emails today, and really, we do appreciate them. Keep them coming in all the usual ways, and we will catch you tomorrow. Thank you, Shaun.
Thank you. Bye-bye.